Hi, I'm Christina Myers, host of The Stina Life. In this episode, we will explore the October energies and see how the eclipses this month will help shift the collective consciousness even more. Let's get into it. Hi, everyone, and welcome to the podcast. First of all, I just want to say how humbled I am by the response to the podcast. I want to thank you all so very much for your love and support. I am completely blown away by your sweet comments and all your questions. So thank you from the bottom of my heart. So we're almost in October, and this week I'm going to turn my attention to the October energy forecast and outline what we have in store for this coming month. So this summer has been the craziest roller coaster ride I think any of us could ever imagine. There were twists and turns, death-defying dips, and exhilarating climbs. And we have literally experienced every single emotion that you could ever experience as a human being. It's been completely wild. And Spirit has been really encouraging me to just surrender and trust. And I have been leaning into these words and laying low a bit to see how things were really going to shake out. Historically, I have never been one to just sit back and wait. The stillness is a bit uncomfortable for me, as I think it probably is for most everyone else that's a human on this earth right now, because we are in such a chaotic state, in our world. And so we're used to this 24/7 get up and go, 24-hour news, everything hitting us. And so finding stillness and being in that is not necessarily normal for us in today's day and age. And also, growing up in more of a chaotic household, you learn to be in a fight or flight mode. So, I've been working very diligently for some time, working on quieting the mind. I do a lot of Kundalini meditations to try and strengthen my mental state, strengthen through the breath, being able to sit in uncomfortable stillness, because a lot of those techniques, you are uncomfortable, your arms are shaking, you're not in the most comfortable places, but you learn to push through the uncomfortableness and sit in that stillness, and learn extreme patience. So, the theme really has been slow and steady wins the race. So that is the mode I have been in. We've also had so much distorted energy, and that has caused a lot of cloudiness, a lot of confusion. And it's really, it kind of has made a lot of us feel like we weren't really quite sure what's real and what's fake. And of course, everybody's kind of in their own timelines and realities. And with the timeline shifting, there can be a lot of distortion happening, because you're not quite sure which dimension you're in. We're moving between these dimensions. We're moving between third dimension and fourth dimension and fifth dimension, and we're going in between these different dimensions. And for some of you who are channelers, you may be in other dimensions as well. So trying to figure out which dimension timeline you're in can be very, very confusing. But the big lesson, I think, for all of us is to really trust yourself, trusting your intuition. And no matter how far-fetched out there the information is that is coming through for you, if you don't have 100% absolute trust in yourself, it's going to be hard to navigate these times. You've got to absolutely trust yourself 1000%. And that way you aren't going to get knocked down and swept under the current and have it take you away. You've got to be steadfast in your convictions, in trusting yourself. This summer has been the ultimate test of fortitude and of surrender and trust to the highest plan. I have always said that everything happens for a reason. I think that was the very first conversation I ever had with my now husband, is that we had this whole conversation, is that everything happens for a reason. And I've always believed that. And I think this is the absolute thing that I've had to lean into. to be able to navigate these times. And we truly are in uncharted territory. I mean, all of this is uncharted territory. And I know I've received a lot of questions about what's going on. What is this five dimension? And I talked about a lot of that last week. But as I said, there's no blueprint for any of this. This is completely new territory, and it doesn't come with an instruction manual. We are all navigating this together, and not one person has all the answers. We're all getting different information based upon our new roles. And all we can do is present that the best we can and be brave enough to present it. And hopefully that will help at least one person. When we hit August 31st and made that turning point, when that 5D portal opened, that moment it happened, everything felt very calm and peaceful and aligned. And the skies were clear. The sun was bright. I don't know. It just felt so different when that happened. And then as we started to move through August, that trickster energy that had been so prominent in the month of August began to pick back up through September. And, these distortions really became our so-called reality. And while it wasn't as intense as August, you could feel that intensity and that lower vibrational energy starting to reemerge. And it began to feel discouraging a bit, especially because I think for some of us, we felt that we had really turned a corner by the unlocking of that 5D portal. But, the big lesson that came through, besides just kind of trusting and being still, was to stay in the heart, to stay in love, to amplify the light. And love is the highest vibrational frequency. And anything that comes in contact with it has to match that frequency. It just has to. It cannot not match that frequency. And, there's just some that are here that are not able to be in the presence of that frequency. It could be ego, it could be distortions of the mind. And in some cases, and I've seen this firsthand, is that it truly is dark energy. And some of the dark energy that I have seen are not what I would consider full human form. It's been an interesting experience that I never thought I would ever see. The other day I was listening to Amanda Ellis, who is a channeler I love from England. She just always does such a fabulous job tuning into the energies and what's going on. And her latest video on YouTube, if you have not seen it, I think she released it around August. She might have released it in coordination with the Aries full moon. She was talking a lot about this trickster energy because she was also feeling that building as we were leading up to this Aries full moon on September 29th. And it was interesting because the first card she pulled was, I think it was titled Artificial Heart. And she had gone into a long channeling around this. And her reference was around those who don't really have a real heart or a real soul. And that they will never be able to experience the frequency of love. It will literally make them sick, or they won't be able to survive because of the frequency. And she had somebody write in to her, and they were referencing a Star Trek episode that they had seen, and that there was this AI robot woman on the show who wanted to experience love. And when she tried to, she ended up dying because she was not built for that frequency. And this was so much of the energy that I was experiencing of leading up to this, to 8/31, to that portal opening. It was as if there were those that were not human, that they were kind of hybrids, half human, half something else, that truly did not have the ability to be in the heart. And they were very, very scared of it. And they were very scared of the truth. And then there were those that I would categorize as very influenced by those that were this hybrid type. And whatever ego item or emotion that had not been worked through, that had not been addressed, it was amplifying for them. Maybe that was fear or abandonment or another emotion that was locking them in. And they seem to be very easily influenced by these lower vibrational energies. So it felt as though there were just these sheer numbers of those who made a choice to stay in the, lack of a better term, fear-based mode versus choosing the light. You know, that was kind of disheartening in some ways. So the lead up to the super full moon on September 29th, it appeared as though the lower vibrational group or the darkness was starting to gain back some momentum, and what they perceived their power was again. And they were pulling resources from everywhere to make it seem like there was more of this going on. And Amanda Ellis was feeling this as well as she was doing her channeled reading. But because enough of you have moved into the frequency of unconditional love, of acceptance, of peace, when this attempt was made to go at it again on this full moon, the frequency was too high at that point, and they could not sustain it to be in the presence of it. So it was a really interesting thing to see this shift happen. And the other thing that is seeming to come through too is that it felt like those that they were able to prey upon, because those others had not worked on some of their emotional pieces, it felt like they had put shackles on them, and kind of had taken over their energy field. And when the full moon in Aries happened and they couldn't stand in the frequency of love, those folks were released. Those folks that had been under their influence were released. And more people now are moving to the light. As I mentioned last week on the show, when we made the turn on August 31st, the numbers I was channeling was 49.5% of those on Earth had moved into the fifth dimension portal. Today, it's well over 50%. It's about 54% now. So there's hope that, more light is coming in, and the light is indeed taking us into this whole new era of the new Earth. So keep amplifying your light, keep shining your light, keep staying in love, keep doing the work, because the work really never ends. And the themes around October are definitely going to support that as well. So keep staying in your heart and keep staying in love and light. Okay, so let's talk about the astrology for this month. I first want to touch upon the Aries full moon, since it's just happened. So, the full moon has been assisting us in a big shedding process and stepping into our sovereignty. So we had the sun in Libra. Libra is the most harmonious, sign in the zodiac. It is the house. It usually sits in the house of partnership. So it loves to be in love, and it loves to accommodate, and it loves to have balance and harmony and justice. But we had the sun in Libra, and Mars is also sitting in Libra. We also have the collective South Node sitting in Libra as well. And that happened in early summer, where we have shifted the North and South nodes of the collective. So since early this summer, we have been releasing the lower octave energy of Libra, which is trying to keep the peace at our own expense, over accommodating others for the sake of the self, and kind of forsaking the balance and the harmony piece, right? This was a challenge, because a lot of us have been taught to be just complacent, just deal with it, just move on, just keep the peace. And Mars sitting here was giving us the willpower to stop the storyline. It was saying, I'm not really sure we want to do this. Mars is, Aries ruling sign. It's the opposite of Libra. So it's more about the I and the self. And so having that in the South Node has been very disruptive in trying to break these old patterns and these old cycles when it comes to our relationships. Then we had the moon in Aries. And that also is where we have the collective North Node. That is the direction we are all moving into. The North Node is where we step into this energy, right? And this is really about stepping into our own sovereignty. And it was about releasing anything that was holding us back from being fully embodied in our most authentic self. We also had Chiron playing a big role. Within Aries, Chiron's big lesson is to release hurting people when you feel hurt. The hurt people mantra, or whatever, we don't know if it's a mantra, but saying that is really what we were working on. Stop fighting fire with fire. Put the weapons down. This is not the approach that we can take anymore. And then we had a crazy conjunction. We had Eris, the sister of Aries, in a super tight conjunction with the North Node. They were actually at the same degree. I believe it was 24 degrees. Eris is absolutely uncompromising. She will not take no for an answer. And anything that's in her way, she's not going to back down for anything. This combined with the rest of what was happening, again, it's asking us to drop the weapons. It's asking us to kind of release the old ways of handling things and choose a new path to fight the battle, but do it without compromise. It's like the hard boundaries piece, right? A lot of people talk about hard boundaries, putting up hard boundaries, being spiritually ruthless. That is really the energy that we were working with. So, we have to do the inner work always. The whole reason we are here on earth is because it's a school. It's a place where we have to learn and to grow. And the stupid thing that we do is we set up these really hard experiences to push us further. So, who I was even just a day ago I'm a completely different person than I was 24 hours ago. Just coming to some really big realizations about myself, about my relationships, about what I'm going to tolerate moving forward. I mean, it's been huge leaps and bounds. This entire summer has been the most transformative summer of my life. So, it's big stuff that you guys are working on right now, that we're all working on collectively. And it's so very important because we can't step into the new earth unless we drop the old versions of ourselves. We have to do that, but we also have to do it with love and compassion and empathy. And we have to be present. We have to be in the now, not the past, not the future. We have to be in the now in order to do it. So think about dropping the weapons, but your new weapon of choice is love. And it is to be in peace and in harmony and being you. So what does the astrology say that we have in store for October? So on October 3rd, Black Moon Lilith is going to move from Leo into Virgo. Black Moon Lilith is a placement in astrology. It's not a planet, it's a placement. It's actually one of my favorite placements to explore because it is an examination of what's unconscious patterns that we have set up in this lifetime to work on. And I always look at this when I do a natal chart because it really can reveal a lot of things that are not in the conscious that needs to be brought to the surface. So we focus on what's suppressed, and we also focus on aggressions that need to be unearthed and brought to the surface. And each of us have our own personal Lilith placement. And then the collective also has a Lilith placement that moves about every 9 months. So that will tell us collectively what we're unearthing, what is suppressed, what are the aggressions that we're trying to pull out. So if you don't know anything about Lilith, Lilith was Adam's first wife in biblical text. She was considered his equal. And I'm not a biblical scholar, but the high levels that she was written out of biblical text when the patriarchy wanted a figure to be more subservient. And so they brought in Eve at that time. She was really resurrected in the 1960s with the women's liberation movement. They used her actually as kind of a beacon. And then if any of you are old enough, in the 1990s, early 90s, Sarah McLachlan had the Lilith Fair tour, which was an all-women's tour with all-women musical artists. So she has been a bit more in the forefront since the 1960s than she had before. So within the astrology, she is really helping us unleash the suppressed feminine energy that we have had. It's the aggression, it's the unconscious. She has been in Leo for the past 9 months, and we have really been working on unearthing the shadows around shining our light in the world. Really a lot of solar plexus work, stepping into being our own boss in the world, speaking our truth. So really working on throat chakra clearing, and then letting our creativity flow. So a lot of sacral chakra. Leo is the creative powerhouse. It's where we shine our light. It is where we have play and fun and children. And so that is the big themes around Leo. So, big, bold, and loud fire energy is what we're working in. So anything unconsciously that was not allowing us to step into that's what we've been working on collectively for the last 9 months. And, this has been uncomfortable for work for a lot of us. But we have been pushed really hard to do this, and leading up to that Aries full moon that we just had, that was huge energy that we had been working on. So she's going to move into Virgo for the next 9 months, and we're going to be focusing more on details of our healing. Integration is a big theme. What have we learned? What are we integrating? All the lessons, the turmoil, the pain that we have experienced, and really finding more of a grounding truth to, doing the full work. Virgo is ruled by Chiron, the wounded warrior, and Mercury, our thoughts and our communications and our voice. So how can we truly get to the heart of our unconscious woundings? By using our voice, by writing, by examining the details to release what is hidden under the surface. We are also letting go of trying to really fit in, to be perfect, to live up to others' expectations. Virgo can get that bad reputation about being an analysis paralysis, but really it is such a grounded, beautiful energy. It's a healing energy. It is all about the body as well. So that is the pieces that we're going to be focusing on for the next 9 months. October 4th, Mercury is going to move into Libra, and Mars is going to oppose Eris. So this should be interesting. So first, Mercury moving into Libra. So our communications are going to shift to be much more diplomatic, balanced, harmonious. We're really trying to bring love and harmony to the forefront of our lives. And this will spill into this Venus-ruled Libra sign, where love is going to lead the way. So I would expect communications to be a lot more gentle, a lot more loving, a lot more harmonious, a lot more give and take, a lot more listening. And again, heart, 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 kind of the big theme. So then we've got Mars opposing Eris, which is very conflict energy. So I just talked about Eris with this full moon on August 29th. This is warrior energy. It does not want to play nice with others most of the time. Eris is on a mission, and she's not going to let anything stand in her way. She is very powerful energy, and I have worked with her before. She has come in for protection around me, and she is fierce. She does not let anybody mess with you. So she's going to be opposing Mars. And it's going to be interesting because Mars, is ruled by Mars rules Aries, which is her, her brother, or masculine version of her. And so this could bring some turbulent energy. We're really trying to step into who we are and taking on these new missions. And that could bring in some battle energy that day as well. But again, we're trying to battle a different way. We're trying to battle with love and not with weapons, not with hate. October 6th, Venus is going to end its cycle, and it's been in retrograde in the sign of Leo since July 23rd. This has been brutal. This has been a brutal retrograde because it's been all about our relationships. The entire focus of our summer has been on relationships, especially when we hit August. And I think for most of us, or if not all of us, we've had to do a lot of examination around our relationships. Some of the relationships have had to be reworked. Others have had to be dissolved. And that includes our relationship with ourselves. And we've had to really examine, how do we give and receive love? How do we love ourselves truly? Is it kind to love ourselves, or is it better to sacrifice our own love for that of others who may not even love us in the first place? We've had a lot of twists and turns around this. And, some of those relationships that maybe had to have a timeout, that maybe some of those will come back under new terms. And then others just aren't. And, it's important, I think, for all of us to understand that relationships are spiritual messengers, and there's no accident when people come into your life, and they may only be there a minute, or they may be there years or decades with you. But it's really important to thank the lesson, thank the person for being a great teacher to you, and then let them go in peace. It's going to reach 28 degrees on October 6th. So the point that she was back in June. She is wrapping up this cycle in Leo. And 2 days later, she's going to move into Virgo. And we also have Mars squaring Pluto. So let's talk first about Venus moving into Virgo. So we're going to have Venus, and we're going to have Black Moon Lilith conjunct in the sign of Virgo for a few weeks. So again, the big theme is around integration. What did we learn when Venus was in retrograde? How can we bring more love into our day-to-day lives? Virgo rules the 6th house in the astrology. So this is all about daily routines, our true vocation, how we, treat our bodies. So again, how can we release trying to meet others' expectations? How can we love ourselves more? So when we love ourselves, we love others much easier. So that's going to be a big theme. That same day, Mars is going to square Pluto. So Mars is in Libra and Pluto is in Capricorn. Okay, Mars focusing on Libra, trying not to be as accommodating. Pluto is unearthing the structures. Capricorn is all about the structures, the government structures, the banking institutions, the educational institutions, everything that's been very much top-down structure that we have been very accustomed to in the 3D world. This is a power struggle. This is a power struggle day with this aspect because, again, we are working on pulling back our power to us. Where are we giving away our power? And on the collective scale, we're going to be in conflict with the outer world. What's the outer world that's been created around us in this 3D construct that has basically enslaved us to a system that does not work for us? And how do we pull back ourselves in this situation? And how do we take our power back from that structure? So that's going to be a big part of the work that we're doing collectively. On October 10th, then Pluto stations direct. So Pluto has been in retrograde state since May 1st. Pluto moves super slow, and it's been in the last few degrees of Capricorn. This has been intense energy. Intense energy. Pluto rules Scorpio, so it's all about power struggles, control, transformation. It's looking at all aspects of our lives, and in the collective, what can we transform? What is hidden beneath the surface? What needs to come into the light to be examined and to be transmuted? This is amplified in the United States because Pluto has been going through its Pluto return in the United States chart, and this only happens every 248 years approximately. So we are again focused on empowering ourselves and empowering the collective to embrace great change. This is huge. It's examining these structures that the foundation of this country was built upon. Pluto's going to move into the sign of Aquarius on March 23rd. It's been kind of moving between Aquarius and Capricorn. It's been doing this dance back and forth. The last time it kind of moved into Aquarius and then moved back to Capricorn was around, I want to say it was March. I was in Washington, D.C. Around that time, and that's when all the banking crisis started to happen and started to hit. So that's when that unshaky ground started to happen. It's going to return to Aquarius January 20th, 2024 until September 1st, 2024. And then it will retrograde back into Capricorn until September. Oh, I've got my dates wrong. Anyway, it will stay in there. It will retrograde back into Capricorn, and then it will stay in Aquarius. I believe it moves back at the end of 2024 into Aquarius and stays there until March 8th of 2043. So 19 years it's going to be moving into the sign of Aquarius. This is when we're going to experience radical changes for the collective. Aquarius wants equality for all. It wants innovation. It wants to move away from the status quo. It's also very galactic energies. So I believe this is going to mean way more contact with off-planet beings. And also this is going to move us into different states of consciousness. So when this really hits and it sticks, starting in the end of 2024, we are going to have some major radical changes happening collectively. On October 11th, Mars is going to move into Scorpio from Libra. So again, Mars has been pushing us in Libra to release from the confines of the over-accommodation, the putting other people first, and really focusing on ourselves. So now it's going into the intense and watery sign of Scorpio, where it's going to give us the ability to really have the power, the courage to dig under the crevices to find any remaining residual energies that needs to come to the surface to be looked at and transmuted. Scorpio rules the 8th house in the astrology chart, which is all about the shadow. It is really about true death and rebirth, and how do we share with others in order to fully step into our most authentic selves. This is very deep healing work. And Mars actually loves to be here because it's going to take this very seriously. This is a task that it wants to take on. So we can really transform at very deep levels with Mars and Scorpio. And, frankly, this new Earth consciousness is forcing us to strip away everything that we have ever known. Our human mind, our 3D construct that we've grown up in, wants to trick us. It really likes to keep us confined into this conditioning that we have been surrounded around since the moment we took our very first breath. But the mind is going to have to do some work to let go of the constructs for the new Earth, because where we are moving to is like nothing we have ever experienced before. This is a new blueprint. It's going to require us to suspend ourselves from the shackles of the programming. We have to get out of the logical mind and move into the heart space, to the intuition, into the feminine energies to be able to really tap into these energies. And we have to release every single thing that we have ever been taught, that we have ever been holding on to from this very traditional human experience. So we are going through a death process of the ego, of the self, and of the identity. That's huge work, gigantic work we're all doing. Okay, now we have eclipse season. So October 14th, we have the new moon solar eclipse in Libra. That's the eclipse window is going to run from October 14th to October 28th. We always have a lead up and we always have a tail, and we're already in the eclipse window. So that full moon kind of moved us into that eclipse window already. So eclipses will bring really quick, really fast, sudden changes to the collective and to you individually. There are generally very big events that are global in scale and can be felt at the deepest levels. Some of these events can change the course of history, and this can also impact you on a personal level. Eclipses are basically amplified energies of a regular, new, or full moon. It just brings with it more push for transformation. This full moon we just had in Aries was a doozy. I don't sleep hardly ever on full moons because it brings so much energy in, especially because they were super moons. We had 4 super moons right in a row and they were intense. Expect this one to be just as intense, if not more, because it is eclipse. It just puts a magnifying glass on everything. So within the sign of Libra, again, we're focused on relationships. Do you see the theme? So because Libra is the bicycle built for 2, we are setting our intentions around what kind of relationships do we want to foster moving forward. We want to be leaning into balance and harmony and peace and love and collective understanding and really much more conscious-based exchanges with people. That is the new vibration. So, what's going to happen between the 14th and the 28th can really shift things in such a dramatic way. So be prepared for anything to happen. On October 21st, Mercury is going to move into the sign of Scorpio. So our communications, our thought patterns are going to include very deep probing and a need for exchanges with others that go way beneath the surface. We need to have some deep exchanges with people, okay? None of this, how's the weather? Oh, your skin looks great. I love your outfit. None of that. This is like deep probing conversations we need. So because we're also getting close to Scorpio season, the Scorpio mansion beginning 2 days later, it's preparing us to do that deep transformational work, that inner work. So the communications needs to support that. And with Mercury moving into Scorpio, it's going to help a bunch when you move into Scorpio mansion on October 23rd. So once we move into the Scorpio mansion, Scorpio, this is quiet, deep, and very big energy. Scorpios are the ones that can stand back, say absolutely nothing, look around the room and know everything that's going on. They know exactly what you're thinking before you know what they're thinking. So they're extremely tuned in. It can also be a very emotional sign, and strong Scorpio placements will not allow you to see that side of them. They will put up the wall so high you cannot get in. There's also a bit of power and control, and there can be a bit of a passive aggressive tendencies with Scorpio energies. I absolutely love Scorpios. I actually have very strong Scorpio placements in my chart as well. Um, and I've got a lot of friends who are Scorpio risings, and um, they have this really amazing regenerative power. They can literally transform themselves without much effort. And they also have this great reserve of strength and power because this sign is ruled by Pluto. So their life is very deep. It can be very challenging. It can be very hard. But they are here to do massive growth in this lifetime. And it's literally dying 1,000 deaths. It's the phoenix rising from the ashes. So this is the energy that we're working with. This is the energy of shamans. It's the energy of mystics. I mean, this is deep transformational energy. And so this is the work that we are preparing to do here in October. And, in the Northern Hemisphere, we are going through the fall season, and everything's dying right now. Everything's going to be falling and returning to the earth to be regenerated. So it's truly a death process that we go through with this sign. There's some seasons I love it, and there's other seasons I don't because I have strong Scorpio placement. I usually go through a pretty deep transformational process when Scorpio season comes around. So sometimes for me, it's a little rough, but I do love the energy. Okay, so that brings us to the very last big placement of October, and that will be on October 28th. This is the full moon lunar eclipse in the sign of Taurus. So we're in Scorpio mansion. We're going through a massive death and rebirth process. We're in this eclipse window. Anything could happen and probably will. And then we have this full moon in Taurus. Taurus is the opposite sign of Scorpio on the 28th. So this full moon in Taurus is going to be interesting because Taurus is very grounded. It's an earth sign. It's very good at integrating the transformations that we have been going through. It's also ruled by Venus, which again, we are leaning on love. Love is leading the way. And it's going to provide us some more steady, stable, conscious ability to tackle these shifts that are coming when Taurus is involved. So I don't know. I'm not feeling like it's a big ta-da. If it was maybe in a different full moon sign, that Scorpio Taurus axis is very interesting. It's going to be interesting collectively if we can balance these two energies, because if they're balanced, they are beautiful together. Because Taurus helps us integrate, Scorpio helps us regenerate and unearth. So we'll see what this is going to lead to. If it's anything like the energies the past few months, we could be in for another wild ride this month for sure. But it's going to be a very full month. And I will just say that November is not going to slow down. We even have more shifts coming and happening our way. And what I'm channeling is that there will be an ability for those of us living on planet Earth, no matter what dimension you are in, to really start to see a greater split between the consciousness state. There could be a lot of chaotic energy in the collective as well. And this could be completely scary for some people. This is why the inner work, the transformative work, is going to be so critical. I just pulled a card the other day from one of the decks I had received, and it was about spiritual practice. And I think that's a really big, important piece, is making sure that you still have a daily practice in place, whether that's just sitting quietly for 3 minutes a day, whether that's doing some sort of class, chanting, writing, being creative, taking a walk outside in nature, or just taking your shoes and socks off and grounding on the earth. I think it's very important that we all maintain those structures because we need them. we're shifting, and nothing is going to stop it. It's already set in motion. And the only thing that we can do is be the peaceful person inside the eye of the storm. We have to be rock solid. We have to stay calm. We have to allow all the chaos to swirl all around us and just be in that heart center, be in the place of calmness and love. And really just put your seatbelt on and get ready for the ride of our lives. Thanks for listening to this episode. If you enjoyed it, please subscribe, rate, or leave a comment. For sessions and other upcoming offerings, please visit my website at stinamyers.com or follow me on Instagram, TikTok, and YouTube at The Stina Life. See you next time.